Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Guan-Hu Lee, Professor and Director of the Kogod School of Business, Institute for Applied Artificial Intelligence.
Thank you. Good afternoon, students, parents, families, and alumni. Welcome to Family Weekend and to this Ellen Melcher's CEO Speaker Series sponsored panel on AI Revolution. My name is Guan-Hu Lee, Professor and Chair of the Department of Information Technology and Analytics, and also Director of the Institute for Applied AI. We are proud of our work to infuse AI throughout our curriculum and operations at Kogod. When the top awards for business schools in the country were announced for 2024, Wharton was named the top school overall, and the Darden School won the award for best teaching, and Kogod was cited as the best AI program in the country. This citation praised Kogod for undertaking the most consequential transformation in business education of any school in the country. And we are pleased with our progress, but we have much more work to do. Our goal is to ensure our students are well prepared to thrive in an AI economy. Now we have a wonderful panel of distinguished leaders in the AI space. Brett Wilson, CEO of Shift Ventures, an AI venture capital firm based out of San Francisco. He's an entrepreneur building and selling 2 companies and then taking one public. He's one of the top AI investors in the country. Over there, Karan Bhatia is one of Google's top executives and leads their global policy function. He's widely regarded by heads of state, ministers, and policymakers as a trusted voice on AI. He has a distinguished career in government, serving as Deputy U.S. Trade Representative and a senior official in other agencies. Now in the middle, Angela Virtue. She is one of our own star professors in the Department of IT and Analytics. She teaches AI, programming, data analytics, and machine learning. She has led our faculty training on AI and very central to Kogod's success in AI. You'll see shortly why she's so popular among students, faculty, and staff. Now, Dave Marchek over there has been our dean for last 3 years and is leading our effort to put Kogod on the map. Over the past 3 years, Kogod experienced record enrollment, record applications, and record fundraising to support students and faculty. 3 years ago, working with faculty and staff, Dave established a plan to make Kogod a leader in AI, sustainability, and entrepreneurship. And today, we are recognized as the top school in AI, ranked number 3 nationally in sustainability, and number 7 in entrepreneurship. So before joining us, he was a top executive at the Carlyle Group and served in the Clinton and Biden administration. So Dave will moderate this wonderful panel for about 40 minutes, and I'll return to facilitate questions from you in the audience. So please join me in welcoming the distinguished panel and Dean Marchek.
Great. So thanks so much for being here. Families, welcome to Family Weekend. Students, thanks for being here. We have a number of faculty here. A couple of things. I'm going to ask questions for maybe 40 minutes, and then Professor Lee's going to come up and moderate questions. I actually have my own son's family weekend, and the flight changed, so my flight leaves at 2:50. I told my wife that I could leave at 1:50 and make it. So we've been married 27 years, so I'm willing to risk a little. And then actually, Karan has to do a call with the White House at 2, so he's going to cut out at 1:55. But we're going to make it up as we go along. One thing, just for those of you who are, how many of you are, this is your first time attending a family weekend for a child? Okay. So when I went to my son's family week, my wife and I went to our son's family weekend. We were so excited. We went to events like this. We had dinner Friday night. We went to like an a cappella group. Saturday, we went back, saw his dorm, and then around 11 a.m. on Saturday, he said, all right, I'm going to say goodbye to you. And we said, we're here for the whole weekend. And he said, well, I want to be with my friends. I was really looking forward to family weekend, but I just didn't realize it was going to be this much family. So if that happened, my wife and I hugged him, and then we looked at each other and we said, I guess we didn't screw this up too much, because it's good that he wants to be with his friends and not us. So if that happens to you, you can just have a little tear, give them a hug, and then they'll be happy. So I'm really excited about today's panel for several reasons. Professor Lee has been involved in AI for 20 years. He knew about it before I knew anything about it. Just a little personal anecdote, because this panel actually is kind of a microcosm of how we got started on this journey. So I became dean 3 years ago, and Karan and I have been friends for a long time. He's one of the most talented people I've ever worked with in anything I've ever done. You'll see that in action. And we had breakfast about a mile away at the Silver Diner, and I was telling him, and I'm not an academic, I don't have a PhD, I don't have an MBA, kind of an accidental dean. And so I was talking to him, and he said, well, what can I do to help? And I said, this was October of 2022, before AI became ubiquitous. I said, I'm kind of interested in AI, but I don't really know anything about it. I'm not really a technology person. He said, well, I'll come to school, I'll speak, and then he brought the president of Google to speak, Kent Walker, and the CEO of Google has said that AI is going to be as profound as fire or electricity. And I said, okay, well, maybe discount that a little, but if it's 1/1,000,000th true, fire and electricity are pretty big. So that breakfast got us started. And then Brett has been a friend of mine. I invested in his venture capital firm. I told my wife, I said, we're either going to make a lot of money or we're going to lose it all, because AI's maybe risky early stage companies. He's done pretty well. So Brett came and spoke, and a student raised his hand, a sophomore, and said, and am I going to be replaced by AI? And Brett said, you won't be replaced by AI, but you could be replaced by someone who knows AI if you don't. And so I took what I learned from Karan and Google and what I learned from Brett, and I went to our faculty, Guan Ho and a couple others. I said, we got to do something on AI. And so the faculty said, all right, let's form a committee. And I'm a private sector person. My eyes kind of rolled back. I said, committee, this is going to take like 3 years and 200 pages. I said, you have 6 weeks and 5 pages. And they did. And what we did is we infused AI throughout everything we do. You'll hear a little about that. And Professor Virtue, Angela, is our youngest, hippest, coolest professor. And she has been the person in charge of retraining all our faculty. Because our faculty have been teaching finance, accounting, everything for years, but they had to relearn it. And so Professor Virtue has basically taught them how to do it, because she's an AI expert and she's worked at startups. So, okay, so thank you, Karan, and Brett. Without that breakfast and without you coming to speak and that sophomore asking a question, we would never be where we are. So thank you very much. All right, let's get into the questions. So let me start with any of you. Let's start with you, Karan. AI's taken off like crazy. ChatGPT, I think, has 900 million users. It took Facebook 12 years to get to that level. Yeah. Are we still in an accelerating upward curve in kind of the adoption and creativity of AI, or are we flattening out?
So I think everything we're seeing suggests that we are still very much on that upward trajectory. You see obviously the investment that's going in, but what's maybe most exciting is you're seeing the innovation that's happening with AI. It's new products, it's users, experimenting, it's developers building AI features into their products. It's just sort of an explosion of things. I think 6 months ago, we would not have anticipated we would be today for another year or two. A year ago, we thought it was 5 years away. So it is not only accelerating, it's picking up pace as it does so. So today, when the Google board meets, when the Google executive team meets, I would say that we're spending 80% of our time talking about artificial intelligence.
Okay, and most of us in the room, how many of you use one tool or another? Okay, so we use Perplexity, we use Gemini, we use. Google has a very different strategy. You obviously have a consumer product, but you're basically helping everybody infuse AI into everything.
Yeah.
So tell us some of the coolest, most innovative things that your technology is doing to help people, productivity, to save lives, to save the climate. Like, tell us the coolest things you're doing.
So, just to build out the beginning of your question a little bit, yeah, we are probably in a different place than OpenAI or Perplexity or any of these folks in that, first of all, our investment and our exposure to AI really goes back beyond anybody else's. We were investing heavily in AI and machine learning, as it was then called, 20 years ago, quite frankly. And we acquired mostly human talent along the way, buying something called DeepMind over in the UK, which became, this last year was recognized with 2 DeepMind scientists awarded Nobel Prizes for the work that they had done applying AI to chemistry and to science solutions. So we have been in the business of developing, and in fact, GPT, the T in T is transformers, and it sort of comes from this seminal paper that Google published, open sourced a little while back, that then sort of allowed the technology to take off. Today, what distinguishes us, I think, is the fact that we really are at every level of the stack, as you call it. So from the core infrastructure that allows AI to exist, right? The chips, if people have heard of NVIDIA, we basically make our own version of GPUs called TPUs. The data centers, the cables. So there's the infrastructure component. On top of that layer is the models themselves. So this is where, yes, you'll have Grok or ChatGPT, or in our case, Gemini. So we have that layer built on top. On top of that, we have the applications layer. So how are we utilizing it in YouTube? How are we utilizing it in Google Search? How are we utilizing it in Maps? So literally every Google product out there now has an AI component to it that's making it better. And then the last thing we're doing is we're working with but we're working with many other companies in many other sectors to build AI into their own products. So chemical companies, drug manufacturers, energy companies. So there's this and much as we all think of AI today as really being the chatbot function, maybe what's even more exciting is taking artificial intelligence and applying its predictive and other capabilities to those sets of uses to create, new drugs or new, pest-resistant crops or any of the many things. We're using it to forecast floods, something that historically you could never really do. You would know that there was going to be flooding in India every time X year. You wouldn't know where it was going to happen. We can now predict with remarkable precision a week ahead of time. Yeah, it's going to flood, and it's going to flood right there. Get people out of the way. So it's just extraordinary, some of the things that are happening.
Got it. And Brett, you come from a different perspective. You're investing in the earliest stage companies. You started your own company at Berkeley and took it public, sold it. So tell us, what are you looking for, and what are you investing in? What are the most transformational applications that you're seeing right now?
Well, one of the things I believe about AI is it's hard to make it work at scale and reliably. So you see a lot of enterprises spin up a demo or a prototype, and then they just never really launch it from there. Or maybe they make it available to their employees or kind of back office, but not to customers and more high stakes use cases. So a lot of our investments are just focused on tools companies that just make AI work or make it safe or more reliable. An illustrative company is Arise AI. It's a San Francisco-based company that monitors your models that are in production. And if the model kind of goes off the rails and does something it's not supposed to do, it lets you know. So the HR bot is giving people off on Tuesday, giving people the day off. Alert, alert, alert. So we think that'll become a category. So that's mostly what we invest in. We do some kind of more fun things, and when you see AI pitches all day, a lot of them feel pretty magical. So we invested in a company called DeepDub. It's a Tel Aviv-based company that automates the dubbing of shows and movies into voices of the original actor. It's a real hoot. So imagine they could take James Bond film and dub Sean Connery's voice into Spanish or whatever, along with all the other actors, perfectly lip sync to the original. They have a big partnership with Amazon Prime to kind of slowly dub their content. We also just backed an AI animation studio, and what they're building is this tool where a script writer, a human script writer, can upload a script into this product, and the AI will create a full animation, like 30-minute show, a movie with tools where the script maker can kind of tweak the outputs. That's the type of thing we're investing in.
Professor Lee, Casey, one other person we went to Silicon Valley in January. We met with senior Google people, thanks to you. Brett set us up with a bunch of meetings, including Perplexity. We felt it was like going to Mars. Because anybody here from the Bay Area? Okay. We took a Waymo, no driver. We started one meeting with someone who came in and declared that they were pro-human. And I thought...
You have to declare that out there, by the way. That's,
I thought, is this like pronouns or what are we, and we felt like we were seeing the future. So talk to us about, we met with one person who said that they start their day by talking to AI about their schedule, their problems, how to approach meetings, a 30-minute conversation every morning with AI. What is going on? Tell us about the culture that you live in every day.
Yeah, so it is totally wild. It feels like 1997 all over again in San Francisco. I mean, all this young talent is coming in. It seems like everybody is starting a company trying to strike AI gold. You can throw a rock and hit a VC, maybe a few. And yeah, there's this sense of optimism. And I'd say right now, we're in this era where we mainly chat with AI and we use it for relatively simple things, which is still amazing. Like for the first time ever, we can talk to a computer in plain language and harness the power of computing. But what we're seeing is the next era, the era of agentic AI, is where AI will start to do more complex kind of multi-step tasks for you, whether it's booking travel or scheduling or managing your email, or at work, we'll probably see an AI for every role, every task, every function. So a finance AI that closes the books, another finance AI that kind of reconciles transactions. So that's kind of the next wave that we see coming is agentic AI.
Okay. Let's come back to that. Let's go to Angela, Professor Virtue. One of the things in education, there's no playbook for AI. So basically what we did is we hired 6 AI, we had Professor Lee, we hired 6 new AI experts, and then Tommy White's here, he's our head of our entrepreneurship program. We basically merged kind of an entrepreneurial mindset with expertise and created a new way of teaching, which we're making up as we go along. The way that students learn. historically, a professor stood at the front of the class, imparted knowledge, student absorbed it, and then was graded on how much they could regurgitate. Okay, that's dead. All that information is available. Now it's really who's the most curious, who's the most agile. So what are we doing in class? What are these parents, students learning? And then, isn't this going to just erase learning and everybody's going to cheat?
So we're really now pushing the bounds in what's possible in the classroom. So as you said, knowledge is democratized. We have the entire internet inside these AI platforms that we can leverage instantaneously and get the world's information just spat right back at you, right? So the whole, I want you to study this memorable vocab word and, regurgitate it to me 72 times just isn't realistic. So what we're now doing is we're really focusing on thinking frameworks for our students where they themselves have the agency to kind of explore their interests and still get the key concepts of what they need to know, whether it's finance or accounting or marketing, but it's now applied in a way where they have portfolios of work afterwards. So for instance, in Professor White's class, he has a 100th level class this semester and he doesn't have a textbook. His take-home homework assignments are, here's this prompt that you're gonna put into the LLM, and it's gonna give you some YouTube videos, it might give you some reading links to do, and you're gonna have to go, first figure out if it's hallucinating, and it's giving you broken links to resources or research papers that don't exist, and then figure out what it's trying to get to, and have you work through those critical thinking problems of what is the AI trying to have me do. And now when you come into our classroom, it's much more guided conversations. So we can now have conversations with the students as opposed to them just regurgitating the information. And with that, we're now getting into our power skills. So AI is great, but there's still fundamental human skills that are going to be required in the workforce. Things like collaboration, things like communication, being able to work together as a team. And so now we can spend more time in our classrooms building on, yes, we're learning technology, yes, we're learning entrepreneurship, yes, we're learning marketing, but we can now distill it into a very different form that's highly engaging and also working on all of our other power skills.
So the curriculum that your students are taking is very different than the traditional curriculum, okay? This teamwork concept, I want to come back. I had a student come up to me the other day, I just mentioned this, said, these team exercises suck, okay? One person's a know-it-all, one person shows up late and doesn't do any work, this other person on my team has particular views and won't listen to anybody. This is terrible. I said, welcome to the last 40 years of my life. So these skills are actually great skills for students to learn because they're going to be, so how are you infusing kind of the traditional subjects which our students need to master, finance, accounting, with professional skills?
So with our redesigned undergraduate core curriculum, we actually have something called a professionalism rubric. So instead of just saying, does your student attend class, we're actually now able to mark them on a few different components, whether that's their participation in class, are they showing up prepared, are they showing up on time, are they adding to the discussion, or are they just sitting in the back of the room on their phones the entire times, right? So we can leverage that rubric and that framework, which is in all of our undergraduate core courses, as a way to kind of keep giving them reminders, and we give them checkpoints throughout the semester. So, maybe they didn't do so hot in the first 2 weeks as they're getting settled, and we can give them pinpoint reasons of, hey, let's work on this skill set, let's work on that skill set, and then apply that in the last portions of the semester.
Casey Evans, Dean Evans, and I were just at a conference on Tuesday in where 100 deans of all the top schools, and we were the ones asked to speak on AI, and we have 90% of our faculty now infusing AI into the classroom. And a dean of one of the top schools in the country emailed yesterday or the day before and said, how did you do that? I'm at like 3%, can't get my faculty to change. So I said, well, we have this great person named Professor Virtue. So how did, faculty don't change. What did you do?
All right, well, first of all, I'm going to give way more credit to all of the other amazing colleagues that we have, because it's truly, when we want to use AI, whether it's for a company or a business, or even have our own teachers think about AI, it's much more of a culture shift, right? AI is a skill that you have to work on every single day, and it's a choice that you have to actively make every single day. And I want to connect it to, or relate it to, if you want to get in shape, you want to get a six-pack abs, right? And you go pay $20 a month to go to the gym, and you never show up to the gym, and a year later you're angry or mad at the gym because you don't have a six-pack of abs, right? That's what's happening.
I have them, but they're just under a protective coating. So.
But that's really what's going on with AI. It's this new practice where you have to spend 5 minutes every single day working on the new AI skill set, get familiar with these prompts, figure out what's going on, what's right with it, what's wrong with it. And so one of the big ways we got that buy-in was we had a really good kickoff training session where we brought our own alums and we brought industry experts, one in marketing, one in kind of consulting, one in finance. And we had them do a demonstration of how they all are individually leveraging AI in their particular domains. And when we brought our finance alum, who's in investment banking, all of our finance professors' jaws were on the floor. Like, she did with AI what, a fresh out of college kid would be doing. It did all of the underwriting, made all the PowerPoint slides, read all of the financial forms that are publicly available. And they were like, okay, this is actually changing the outcomes, right? And so as soon as we brought those applications to our professors, point of view, they were like, this isn't something we can wait on, right? So that was one way we really got that buy-in. And then, every month, every few months, we have continuous trainings, continuous conversations to meet our professors with where they're at in this continuum of we're getting started to we're doing super advanced stuff like Professor White.
Brett and Karan, so I actually did a search and I said how much the infrastructure companies have announced over $1 trillion of investment, okay? Are we in a bubble? Is this like 1999 again? Or is this gonna continue?
I'm happy to take a step of that, but can I just to what Angela was saying, so true that we're seeing it as well. And if you think academics are hard to get to buy into new technology, try government folks, right? So there's this instinctive skepticism of it. But it is really the trying that convinces people, right? How many of you are familiar with Notebook LM? Familiar? Okay. So we put out Notebook LM, and it became a tool.
That's a Google product.
It's a Google product. It's an amazing product. If you haven't used it, you funnel documents in, and it will basically create its own corpus that it's pulling from to do everything from giving you digests of it, creating lesson plans, to actually doing a podcast that it will create with it. So it's an amazing tool. But it is actually getting people to utilize the tool. I took it to a group of central bankers, right, who struggle with how do I take this incredibly dense, complicated stuff around what we do, monetary policy, and make it comprehensible to the average person on the street. They are now all creating podcasts on what they're doing. So I do think there's just enormous value to people wrestling with, engaging with the products. Nano Banana is our newest thing, which is just taken off, and frankly,
bananas.
It's called Nano Banana. Don't ask me about why we market things the way we do. But any event, it's sort of the most sort of cutting edge like visual product that we've got, and people are loving it, and so it is just simply getting people to utilize them. Sorry, to your question about capital expenditures and investments, it's enormous. We are this year going to spend Google $85 billion, which, just to put it in perspective, is probably 3x what we were spending in CapEx 5 years ago, sort of beforehand. And I don't see that slowing down. I think we're going to continue to maintain it. And if anything, what our CEO has said is the risk of under-investing at this point is greater than the risk of over-investing. So I think you're going to see it. And it is because of this incredible moment that we are in, the explosion of innovation that's happening. We are, by the way, increasing the efficiency of the models and the chips dramatically, 300x over what it was 3 years ago. But it's still exploding. I mean, the demand is exploding. So I think you're going to continue to see growth.
Okay. Brett?
Well, first of all, Angela, bravo. Like what you're doing here, I think what's different about it is you're approaching AI from kind of a courageous standpoint, where most academic institutions are scared of it. And Karan, my wife uses Nano Banana every day. She does a lot of hikes, and she puts pictures of her hikes on Instagram, but she uses Nano Banana to put a picture of a bear in all of her hikes. So super productive use of AI.
Yeah. I put a six-pack on.
Yeah,
We can even do that.
Okay, yeah.
Are we in a bubble? I mean, the valuations that we see are certainly pretty untethered from any connection to future value or cash flows. So I think we could see some contractions, but the mental model for how I look at it is, for the parents in the room, if you remember the dawn of the internet, sounds a lot ago, but the early 90s, for the first 5 years, the internet, it was a bunch of HTML pages, and we clicked around and felt like digital brochures, right? And there wasn't e-commerce yet, or digital video, YouTube, social media. Thank God I wouldn't have made it through the 90s. And I think all of those things are still to come. I think what we're seeing is the very early days still. So.
And Brett, you, if any of you are public investors, Brett, your company created the Swift AI Index, I think that's what it's called, which is basically the leading measurement of the degree of AI adoption for publicly traded companies. Can you just explain what it is? And
yeah, so my day job is investing in private AI startups, but our investors, our LPs, more often than not, they'd ask me, should I be buying more NVIDIA? And so we started thinking, well, what is an AI company? I mean, everybody talks about it in their earnings call. So we actually built an AI product, and what we do is we look at how many AI people a company is hiring, so data scientists and machine learning engineers and AI engineers. And then we looked at how much research are they contributing, because these are the type of people that they're out posting research, they're working on open source projects. And then we looked at their earnings transcripts and financial statements and tried to figure out how much of their actual business was tied to AI. And we kind of came up with a ranker that ranked the most AI of all the public companies out there. So it's 80 companies. We don't make money from this. You can go to our website and see it. But we update it every quarter, and you can see the companies coming in and out. And I think what's going to be exciting about it is there's a lot of private AI companies that should go public in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So we expect to see a lot of turnover in that index.
Karan, people our age, well, people over 30-ish, well, I don't know. Search has been everything, okay? And Google dominates search. And one of the questions being debated is search dead? So is search, I'm asking Google this, is search dead?
I'm happy to tell you all who are shareholders of Google, no, search is not dead. No, look, we think and truly believe this is the dawn of an amazing moment for search. It is evolved dramatically, clearly, right? And will continue to evolve. And I think you're seeing more innovation and more creativity in how people look for information. I mean, to be clear, even before the moment of AI, we were seeing a lot of new ways of trying to access information. We found People were going to YouTube rather than the traditional Google search. People were going to Amazon. They were going to Expedia. You know, there was a lot of evolution that was happening in search to begin with in terms of sites and so forth. But the layer of AI on top of it has just sort of really been an incredibly exciting development. And it is for us. I mean, I don't know how many of you recently have stared at a Google search, but you now have what we call the AI overview at the top. So it is generating an AI-driven overview, which people love, right? It does not mean they're not still going into search. They are. As a matter of fact, the number of searches is increasing, and the amount of time that they are spending is on sites, specific sites, is increasing. But they're getting more out of the search, right? It is a richer search experience. And you're able to ask it things that before you would have plugged in 4 searches or 6 searches and you'd have had to correlate. It's now doing that for you. So we think it's an extremely exciting moment.
Got it. I want to come back and close this part on careers, careers of the students in here, and then, but let me just ask Brett and Karan. So right now everybody's focused on AI, but the next thing that everybody's going to be talking about, you tell me, but it's quantum computing and robotics. So what are we going to be talking about and seeing in those 2 areas in the next X period of time?
I think we're going to see AI kind of leap from the cloud to the physical world. You mentioned Waymos earlier. If you've been in a Waymo or a driverless car, it's awesome that you can be in this 2-ton piece of metal flying through a city with no driver. And I think we'll see that same intelligence brought to a lot more robots. We've been investing in robot companies that where the robot does jobs that humans don't want to do, like sanding or grinding. But right now it kind of does one task really well. I think we'll see robots that do firefighting and handle toxic materials. And I think we'll even see them in the house in 5, 10, 15 years, where we have robots that are hopefully doing our laundry for us without us worried about the robot falling on us or burning up the house. And if we can get a robot to kind of fold fitted sheets one day, we'll know we've made it.
So, you know, a common answer is quantum, and we are very deeply invested in quantum. I think quantum is probably 5 to 10 years from where we are now, which is not to say it's not going to be here and be hugely impactful, but it's a little bit further off. Look, I think it is the ongoing application of AI to things that, you know, the way we live our lives. I agree with Brett on agentic. I think the idea that you are going to have basically a personal concierge who will deal with your life for you.
An AI
enabled, you know, so, you know, you will say, I've got a sore throat, you know, the AI will figure out whether you have the right medicine, it will make the appointment at the doctor for you, it will compare it onto your schedule, it will plan your trip, it'll order you the Uber to get over, or the Waymo. By the way, thank you for the shout out for Waymo. We are extremely excited to be introducing Waymo to the Washington, D.C. area next year.
That's a Google company too. Okay.
Yeah. But it's an example of AI-powered technology, right? It is, you would not have Waymo, you would not have autonomous driving if you didn't have artificial intelligence. So I think it is the array of applications of AI, whether it's agentic, whether it's to science, whether it's to, you know, all the things I was talking about before, agriculture. I think that's really what's perhaps most exciting right now.
My last question, starting with Angela, and then I'd like to get Karan and Brett to comment on what we're doing right and what we should be doing better. Ultimately, we're doing this for our students. We want our students to be prepared for the AI economy. So what is it that we're trying to, Guan Ho said, that Professor Lee said that, you know, our AI initiative has been called the most consequential transformation in business education anywhere in the country. What is it that we're trying to do to help our students? What skills will they have? And then Brett and Karan, what are we getting right and what should we be doing better?
So there's three kind of buckets of skills that we want every single one of our students to be able to leverage when they graduate and go on to their careers. The first one is AI fluency or AI literacy. So what is AI? How does it work? Where does it not work super well? And more importantly, can they start to leverage this technology in their specific application or domain? The second one is one that I kind of talked about a little bit earlier today. It's all those power skills, those things that make us uniquely human, of collaboration and communication. And then the third bucket is the entrepreneurial spirit, right? We're going in this next year to 5 years to 10-year period not really knowing what exactly the landscape's going to look like. But if we can instill this entrepreneurial spirit where everyone's insatiably curious and resilient to figure it out and try new things and be willing to fail, we know that with all three of those components, they're going to be successful no matter they're going to business and entertainment, marketing, accounting, or any other domain or field.
Look, I have so much admiration for what you guys are doing here. I think it is really, and we get a chance to work with universities around the country and around the world, and I think you guys are trend-setting here, so well done. I think that, I mean, look, from our vantage point, it is about people and a culture that embraces the technology and thinks first and foremost, how do I use this, right? How do I build this into my life? So the line about you're not going to lose your job to AI, you're going to lose your job to somebody else who does is very much on point. I think what we're seeing is, you know, it will be somebody in every manufacturing, right? You know, who is out there on the production line floor inspecting for things. The person who is able to do that utilizing AI tools well and thoughtfully is going to be of greater value than the person who can't. And so I think just take that and multiply it by 1,000. But it's you know what I'll finish with this. When we talk to companies about how do I get going on my AI journey, and if their answer is, well, I'll create a committee or I'll create a, that's not the solution, right? I mean, to your point about committees before, it is really having it seep into the culture of the company.
What I like about the approach, because all this is new, like none of us really know, is you're approaching it like a founder would. It's like we're going to try this. We're probably going to fail, and we're going to learn and iterate. So you know, my compliments. If you've seen the data on kind of hiring of entry-level workers, I think it's pretty clear now that companies don't want to train entry-level workers anymore, just because the AI does that. So I think to get a job now, you have to be deeper. So if you're a marketing major, you can use AI comprehensively to come up with a campaign and the creative and do the ad buy and optimize it and measure it. You have to be able to do that. And I think you certainly learn some of that in the class, but I think it's more important than ever to kind of get out of the classroom, do internships, do hackathons, do business plan competitions. My own company came out of a business plan competition. Do side hustles. So I think that's really important. And then the last point you made around kind of being human, I think you have to look at what AI is good at and what it's not good at. And AI is great at retrieving and producing content right now, but it's not good at building relationships and persuading people and being accountable and being a leader and these human-centric qualities. And so I actually think students probably need to do a little bit more partying, a little less studying. My son's out there in the audience right now, so I said a little. But those human skills are going to be more valuable than ever.
So speaking of human skills, so my wife doesn't turn me or replace me with a robot, I'm going to go to the airport. Professor Lee is going to moderate questions. Karan, Ambassador Bhatia is going to excuse himself at 1:55 so we can deal with this. But thank you all for being here. I'm sorry I have to get to the airport, but I don't want to be in the doghouse with my wife, so I'm going to run. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Dave, for expertly moderating the panel. So now everyone here has an opportunity to ask questions to the panel. So identify yourself and then ask questions. Oh, hold on. The mic is coming to you.
How you doing? I'm Stuart Gold. I'm actually an alumnus of the School of Public Affairs here in 1996, and my daughter's a freshman in the School of International Studies. But you all three brought up similar things. You talked about precision, you talked about reliability, and you talked hallucination. Like that the AI is not perfect, and neither are humans. But what is being done to make the models better, be more correct, more precise, more reliable, not hallucinate? And two, how do we increase confidence in people that it is a better model, it is going to be better than humans and things?
Yeah. Thank you.
I can go first. I think about this a lot because in the software world, the software it's rules based. It kind of did what you told it to do. With AI, it's more like a living, breathing organism. Like you're not sure what it's going to do, whether it's going to hallucinate, and it may do so confidently too. There's a lot of investment in tools right now that kind of put guardrails. We call them evals that help the builders of AI kind of understand. Is this thing doing what it should do, or isn't it? And I think as those tools get more mature, and we all have more experience building models, that the accuracy will improve. I do think there's something missing for me with a lot of models. Is increasingly like these models, they make decisions about your life. Like you may run into a model at some point that determines whether or not you could get a mortgage. And I think for those models, we deserve a little bit more transparency into what the data is behind the model and how it's making decisions. And so I hope that we'll begin to see disclosures like that for certain kind of important models. So.
Response from Coran?
Plus one to what Brett was saying, there is a lot of thinking and testing that's going on. We are in an initial phase of this technology. Clearly, there are mistakes being made. We've made mistakes. Others have as well. I will say what gives me confidence is, first of all, you're seeing fewer of this. I mean, the models are improving as with each passing day. And secondly, a lot of the key scientists who are working on this stuff are actually, there is a community of people who have a very strong set of ethical beliefs and frankly, a strong interest in building that trust. I mean, nobody really wants this technology to go off the cliff. So I feel like there's some good dynamics there. Having said that, and we haven't talked about it, I do think that there is a place for regulation with respect to this technology. And we could talk about that, but I worry about, I mean, it's a very powerful technology and got in the wrong hands, it can be a risk. So I think, I mean, we've said it's an important space for governments to be engaged in and to look at regulation.
Excellent. We can take a question from this section. Please.
Hi, my name is Phil. I use AI pretty deeply in both my business and personal life. I want to go specific to a long conversation I'm having with Chat about my golf swing. And what I've noticed is that it's eager to please. It feels like it's taking on a real personality, and it's gone in the past 6 months from sort of very black and white to not only real dialogue, but encouraging dialogue and coaching dialogue. Is that the learning that's happening between the model and me, or is that where it's going? I mean, it's just becoming so real feeling. It's like, it's almost more rewarding than even talking to my coach. So I don't know what the real question is in there, but maybe you guys can draw it out.
I mean, look, one of the things that you see the model is doing and adjusting to is sort of trying to figure out what is it that is going to keep you engaged, keep you, responding to it, so So I do think that those questions of tone and intonation and sort of the nature of it, and it will like consciously, I don't know if you've spent time on Grok, for instance, it's a much edgier experience. Gemini, honestly, is a more sedate kind of experience, we think. So there are different flavors to it. But yes, the models are continuing to learn and figure out tone among everything else.
No, go ahead, Phil.
No, and I do see that because it's like there's always the next prompt back to me. Would you like me to?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's continuing to draw me in and pull more out of me, which then just feeds the conversation further.
I think one of the prompting tricks that people use is to always tell the AI what persona you want it to take on.
Yeah.
So you say, I want you to be an incredibly self-critical, harsh golf coach, and
Right.
the answers will change. How's your swing doing? It's getting better?
It's a work in progress.
Okay.
Now, can you take a question from students if we have questions, students here or over there? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mishti Mishra. I'm a first-year MBA candidate here. Thank you so much for coming out. I would love to hear some insight. We talked a lot about efficiency and how these AI models are making things a lot more efficient, giving employees and your colleagues more time to do other things. What are, specifically Brett and Karan, sorry, Angela, what are your companies doing to encourage the leftover time from these efficiencies? What are you guys encouraging your colleagues to develop in place of these AI making things so much more efficient?
Yeah, I'd say in my companies are startups, so they tend to have a certain work ethic and mentality, but it's not like they're using AI to take Friday off. So they're using it mainly to do lower level work, to kind of be the horsepower for writing and putting together slides and a lot of coding. 40% of all code is AI generated. So I'd say it's mainly just to make them more productive. And one thing we are seeing is a lot of the AI companies that are doing well, they're like 50, 60 people. So AI, it's certainly a threat to the job market, but I think what we don't talk about enough is the opportunities for founders. You used to have a technical person that could code if you wanted to start a company, and now that's not necessarily true. So we see for the first time like non-technical people starting companies.
It's a great question. So I can talk about literally my specific part of Google and how we utilize it. But just quickly before that, some of the studies that we've done show that actually one of the impacts of AI becoming more ubiquitous is in the workplace is folks who are actually lower performers in the job level up. So the marginal benefit is greatest for those who are struggling in their roles to begin with. So call center operators, for instance. If you're a very experienced, long tenure call center operator, you're going to know some things very quickly. The newer or less skilled call center operators are the ones who are most benefited by the AI tool that they can use to become more proficient. So my group, what we spend a lot of time doing is studying laws, regulations, public policies around the world. We are a very big company. We're in many different countries. You can imagine the number of laws and regs that we normally had to track. And before, I had people who literally were sitting there outside law firms and so forth tracking all of this. I now have a database that is sucking in thousands of laws and regulations, digesting them, matching them against key terms that I care about, and pulling out rather than 100 or 500 or whatever, pulling down the 5 that we really need to focus on, which is freeing my team up much more time to actually engage on those 5, figure out what it is that we care about, pluses and minuses, et cetera, be out there meeting with people, whatever it is they're doing. So I'm not laying off anybody, but I'm just making their ability to access the data much faster, much more efficient, much ultimately more effective. So with that, I apologize. I'm going to step out, but thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. Good to see you.
Thank you. We can probably take one more question. Just wait. Okay.
So, as I understand it, many major AI models source their training data from other people's intellectual property and copyrighted material. What are the possible ethical and legal problems with that?
Thank you.
That sounds like an Angela.
Wonderful.
You guys always put on.
First of all, this is one of those lessons that we impart in our first year classes, right? We like to take the approach of teaching everyone exactly what's wrong with these models, and those source training applications that you just mentioned is one of those, what I'd call big rocks, right? These things that have kind of gone unregulated, which again, we hadn't really gotten a chance to touch about too much. Currently, there's a lot of active legal cases in the works. So Anthropic, which is another one of the really big companies out there, they've just, I think, settled a lawsuit that basically said, hey, they took all of this copywritten material, books, to use and train their actual LLM. And I believe, someone can fact check me or put up AI, themselves, but I believe it ended up where the judge said, hey, you taking these works and putting it to train your LLM is a significant transformation in and of itself and isn't necessarily a breach of the copyright. However, the manner in which they acquired these works was unethical because they basically just got pirated copies of all of this work to use to train their LLM. So they're currently paying out like millions, I don't remember what the exact number is, to all of the authors of the works that they had pirated, essentially. So this is where if you go out and pay, and this is where we're starting to see with some of the other companies, they're starting to pay the newspaper companies, the magazine publishers, other book publishers to get access to this really highly edited, really good, high quality source materials to train their models is starting to go.
I agree with Angela, by the way. I think that it's a really important question. How do publishers and artists and creatives get paid for their work? And I hope we end up in kind of a balanced place that recognizes, a lot of work is based on other things. Was it Picasso that said like a good artist borrows, a great artist steals, and R&B is based on sampling, and founders tend to have ideas that are slightly different. Tell you one thing we see a lot of is startups that are trying to quantify the value of a publisher's data and build marketplaces to make that data available. So I think it's a problem that will be worked out in the courts, like Angela said, but also with technology where there's an intermediary layer that determines the value of what you have to a given model. So.
Thank you. So with that, please join me in thanking the distinguished panel.